done commercially, and it will have to be done. There's more capital in the commercial markets than there is in the donation markets, which are a one-time resource and generally are something that you go to the donors once a year and you keep asking for that investment to be refreshed. So we were founded by 3 not-for-profit organizations, MEDA, CARE, and SEED, all who were in economic development, all who had typically used a traditional development approach. And what they discovered is that they were really good at giving money away and not so good at investing it. And so what they did is created Microvest in 2000, it started in 2002, but we launched our first fund in 2004, to be a commercial microfinance investment manager and as a for-profit entity. Today we manage about $80 million in investments in 16 countries through 3, and then I count on 4 investment vehicles or funds. We're getting ready to close a fund here in the next couple of weeks that'll bring that to $100 million. We had a first fund, as I mentioned, launched in 2004, private equity fund. It was targeted on the second tier MFIs. We did a collateralized loan obligation or debt obligation, CDO, that is now a bad word, back in 2007 with Lehman Brothers. And that was a really great transaction. There were several others that were also done that year. It's a shame what's happened in the domestic markets that has really cut off the stream of capital coming through CDOs, because there were about $300 million in CDOs placed in microfinance in really just the first half of 2007. And it was just phenomenal, and all that capital was flowing to microfinance institutions, allowing them to grow really rapidly and to grow out in their reach and to reach more of the working poor. With what happened in the subprime market, all CDOs everywhere have shut off, and so there's no capital, no buyers for collateralized debt obligations right now. So now everyone's going back to sort of square one and finding other ways to structure vehicles for capital to get from here to there. Part of what's going on right now in the global markets with the credit squeeze, in part given the strong growth in microfinance institutions, there's a real need now for equity. There's not that much debt capital out there, credit, and organizations are deleveraging. Microfinance institutions and organizations here in the States, they're all deleveraging. And so to deleverage, you either shrink or you raise equity. And so we're seeing a real good opportunity to make equity investments in microfinance institutions. So we are launching our new fund, our Microvest 2 fund, has a specific target in terms of the microfinance institutions we will be investing in. It's one that we're going to have a $20 million first close in the next couple of weeks, and it will have an investment return, an IRR to the investors of about 23%, and have an impact of creating wealth of about $1.2 billion, we figure, over 7 years. It's a 7-year fund. And what this is doing, this is sort of a build-up of the impact of how a $70 million private equity fund impacts household income. So the income of micro-entrepreneurs and their households. And this is net income, this is after expenses, at $1.2 billion I could go into the math of how you get there, but because microfinance loans recycle quite frequently, I think I conservatively estimate twice a year. Which some places cycles every 16 weeks or even less. An investment that we make at a microfinance institution, that they turn around with that capital, leverage it up by getting debt, and then taking all that capital and making it into a bunch of small loans, and then recycling those every 6 months. As you can see, the multiplicative effect is astounding. And how we differentiate ourselves at Microvest is on core financial discipline. So everyone has a background at Microvest pretty similar to mine, coming from various markets here in the United States, typically as a basis for getting financial discipline and capital markets experience, and then has experience overseas in developing markets and in microfinance and foreign languages. So what do we see? Current conditions. After Muhammad Yunus won the Nobel Peace Prize in late 2006, 2005 was the year of microfinance by the UN. Definitely capital was flowing in a very large way. It was constricted starting in, I think it's really all of 2008 with the credit shrink, and it just wasn't microfinance, it was just everything. So that is called a bit of a stall. But the capital flowing in, the excitement in the space, definitely created a bubble environment. Part of that was mainly felt at the microfinance institution level. In country, these organizations felt like their value was higher than where the rest of the world was perceiving value. A bit of froth in their thinking. They thought they could get debt at rates that were unreasonably low. And now with sort of settling down in the last, I'd say, 12 months, their expectations have come back down to earth, which is good. And so I think overall, sort of this phase of this last year has been good for microfinance. I think that the theories and the theories of supply and demand are beginning to actually take place now that we're controlling the supply of capital more than what was flowing in. Now people are pricing risk appropriately. I think that with less capital flowing into microfinance at the microfinance institution level, there is an increased focus for microfinance institutions on asset quality and on operating efficiency. When an organization grows really rapidly, it's really easy to mask the quality of the underlying loans, because as you're constantly growing, your